We now have a pretty solid foundation on some of the things that Material UI is going to provide for us. Then in the last video, we just set up our own custom theme based on the design file for our application that is going to really speed up and simplify the development process as we work. So with that all in place, it's time to really start building out the front end of our application, and we'll start at the top with the header. We'll flip on over to the design file real quick just so we get a refresher of what we're going to be creating. Alright, so here we are in the design file, and our header is this piece right up here. I can go ahead and drag it around. This is our header. That is going to be at the top of every single page, and so that's usually the first place that I start when I start building my applications. Since the header and the footer are going to both be on every single page, that means that they're going to act kind of like the skeleton of our application. So I always think that those are a good place to start, and they're a really nice way to start introducing the concepts of Material UI before we get into more complicated sections. So our header is going to consist of three main parts. The left, we have our logo here, which is just text, so that's going to simplify this a little bit. And then we have the actual links to the different routes in our site, which a user can click on to access those routes. And then over here, we're going to have some icons that is going to provide the user with some functionality, or some more routes rather, but to the cart, my account, and the site search. We're going to implement these pieces of functionality later on, but we're going to want to build the UI now so that we have everything in place. That way we're not having to do kind of everything at once. I find it really helpful to build out the user interface, and then I go through and add some of my functionality. Alright, so now let's go on over to our code editor and check out how we're going to start this off. So I'm here in the code editor, and the first thing we'll want to do before we get our project up and running is to clean up some of the things that we have changed since we went through and deleted some files and reorganized our structure here. So now we have all of these components in a UI folder. So we're going to need to go ahead and open up our 404.js. And for now, I'm going to want to delete this SEO component. We'll go into that later, and we'll integrate it once we cover SEO topics and understand more about what's going on. But for now, I just want us to focus on building the UI, so we're not going to worry about that. Okay? And then we have this layout component, and we are going to be using this layout component from Gatsby. It is generated automatically, and that's going to allow us to set up our header and footer that is going to wrap all of our other pages. Okay, but now this layout component is not coming from up a directory /components/layout. It's in components/UI/layout. Okay, so make sure you make that change, and then this should be good to go. So I'll go ahead and save that, and then we can go over to index.js, and here we'll again remove the SEO component. We'll also remove this image component. We'll get into that again in a little while. So let's remove those and make sure we access layout from components/UI/layout. And now let's remove the SEO component in here. Let's remove this div with the image. Close that, and let's remove these links to the other pages that we deleted. Okay, so we'll just leave our index page looking like this, and I'll change hi people to hi Udemy just so we know everything is working correctly. So I'll go ahead and save this, and now we should be able to go and open up our terminal or command line if you're on Windows. And I always like to open up two tabs. We have to make sure that we start our Strapi server first so that Gatsby, when it's creating our front end, can pull the data from Strapi. So let's change into our folder containing our project, and then change into the backend folder, and then npm run develop. And this will start getting our Strapi server up and running. All right, and that was successful. So once that's running, we can go over into the other tab, and I'll again need to change into that folder. Usually I change into the folder and then make the tabs. And then here, let's change into front end and npm run develop as well, which is going to start up Gatsby. Okay, and I'm seeing an error here. It looks like in the Gatsby plugin manifest, we are still accessing a icon that we deleted, one of the pictures. So let's open up, I think that's in Gatsby config. And then yeah, here down at the bottom where we have icon, this is the icon of the site. We'll go ahead and set this later and mess with this later. For now, let's just go ahead and comment out that line. And if we go ahead and save that, then I should be able to stop this, and I'm going to run npm run develop again, and hopefully that should succeed this time. Okay, and I forgot the one other thing. In layout.js, they import CSS file that we had deleted. So go ahead and get rid of that. Let's make sure there shouldn't be anything else. I'll just triple check this. Okay, so delete that, the CSS file, make sure you delete that from layout.js, save that. Now we can go ahead and it should be rebuilding our bundle, but I'm just gonna go ahead and stop that and run npm run develop one last time. Sorry about that. But now that we've got everything cleaned up, we'll just be good to go and build out our application. All right, and there we go. We've got it up and running. So let's open up our browser and go to localhost 8000. And here we see our Gatsby default starter and hi Udemy. So we've got our Gatsby project up and running, and now we can totally build this out from scratch. So when we've got this up and running, let's flip back over to the code editor. And here in layout.js, you see that it's referring to a header that Gatsby had created for us already. So we'll just actually use this component, but let's go ahead and remove this prop. So we'll just leave the header component just like that. And let's go ahead and save this now. And essentially we can just use this layout component to wrap each of our pages with the header and then a footer underneath. Okay, and then inside of the main tag, we'll render out the children, which will be the actual content of the page. So this imports the header from this same folder. So we can open up header.js inside of our UI folder. And in here, we're going to replace all this with our material UI header. So let's go ahead, select all, and just delete everything inside header.js.